InsideFoos presents FoosTalk Live.
For the most part, though, I think we've all behaved in a reasonable manner, and it's all been pretty copacetic, and I think we've grown both as radio broadcasters and as human beings.
Reporting live from Seussical the Musical.
Oh, I love that.
Adam Gilson.
It's a peanut butter shake.
Oh, my goodness.
Peanut butter
What?
shake. Yes, peanut butter shake, India Pale Ale.
It's FoosTalk Live.
You talking to me?
Compelling and lively banter.
Are you going to talk to us?
Talking foosball.
Foosball was how I measured my value as a man. You took that away.
Players and fans, promoters and pros. Unedited and raw.
Talk.
Living in the moment.
We have a lot of important things to talk about.
All while practicing social distancing.
Cool. We'll talk. No big whoop.
Let's get this thing started. FoosTalk Live.
Coming to you live from the studios of Inside Foos, it's the 70th episode of FoosTalk Live. Hey there, I'm Tom Robinson. We're brought to you by InsideFoos.com, offering monthly subscriptions with access to some of the most exciting matches ever recorded, plus live tournaments, pre- and post-show analysis, interviews, and original programming. Sign up now at InsideFoos.com. Also brought to you by ProtectoFlex, the world's premier foosball accessory. Go to Protecto-Flex.com. Brought to you by 518 Prints, one of the best printers of promotional items, t-shirts, hoodies, and foosball apparel. Visit 518prints.com. Brought to you by Foosballers the Movie. Download Foosballers the Movie internationally at foosballersthemovie.com. Also brought to you by the USTSO, helping to usher in a new era of competitive foosball. Become a member at usafoosball.com. And brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, promoting foosball through school systems all over the United States. Visit foosclubs.com to make a donation today. Hey there, I'm Tom Robinson. It's episode number 70. We're back together again live, and get raring to go when it comes to talking about foosball all evening long. And of course, talking about foosball certainly helps when you got somebody else to talk about it with. That would be the number one best all-time greatest, if there ever was another one, all-time greatest foosball play-by-play announcer, Jim Stevens.
It's nice
right?
just to be considered in the top five, for sure. Thank you, Tom. I'm still kind of buzzing off last week's show with the Ruse, which I thought was maybe one of the best shows we've done. I thought they were fantastic, all three of them.
Oh my
Of course,
goodness,
we had Terry, Keisha, and Sully on the show, and just what a good show. And if you haven't heard it already, folks, just you need to go download it, listen to it. It is certainly one of the better FoosTalk Live shows I think we've done.
Oh yeah, no question. Top five, in my opinion, top five. We could always run down the top 5 episodes of all, but that would be definitely in the list. No question.
Yeah, and how nice for the entire family to come and spend time with us. And I'm sure they called family members to listen, because they always do. They're so family supported, and they talked about that on the show last week.
Right.
And but to have all of them on simultaneously with all their different viewpoints, and also just how much they like each other, for sure.
Yeah.
As as you could hear, Sully, definitely does not look at her dad, Terry, as her dad necessarily. He's as much her friend and competitor and teacher as anything. And it was just a great interview.
Yes, it's great to have your dad as a coach who's, obviously brought her a long way, and she's got a long way to go still. I think she's probably the one personality, if you had to pick somebody out for the upcoming competition in Lexington, she'd be one of the names that everybody's going to be watching and waiting to see.
She could be number one. Obviously, we've talked about the big stories. We talked about them last week. But when you think about how far Sully has come and how good she is, and we're talking about a woman who is better than, at this stage, I think she's better than all the women and most of the men.
Yeah.
And that's just how good she is. And you heard Terry talk about it. She beats him pretty regularly in singles, when they're battling. It's she holds her own with a guy that eventually is going to be a Hall of Fame player. And of course, we're going to see all three of those folks in about 10 days now. Can you believe that?
That's exciting. 10 days.
When we all head to Lexington for the Tornado Championships. Looking forward to it.
So what are you packing, by the way? Other than your gear, what else are you packing to? Are you
38 special, but I don't know why you're even asking. No, I'm kidding. I don't have a 38 special. No, obviously all the gear, and a few shirts, and just the basics. I bring a lot of stuff. I actually pack 2 cases that I check, 2 50-pound cases with the video equipment, etc., and then of course 2 carry-ons as well, which leaves a very little bit of space for clothes and personal items.
Yeah, we always wondered about that. With somebody like yourself who's got to not just go and play foosball, but go there and commentate for the entire weekend. What extra special stuff you've got to take with you just to Well, just to make it a
Well,
weekend.
well, this year I'm also packing an extra commentator, and we'll be talking to him a little later on. Keith Glen, who's going to join us as a play-by-play announcer. Obviously, Adam Gilson, who will also be with us here in a minute, is going to be there to do some commentary. But Keith as well. So I'll be packing Keith. How about that?
Can we say Keith is newly minted?
Newly minted, yes. Yeah. Whatever that specifically means, in terms of. I just pictured him in some sort of big press.
Right.
Speaking of big press, one guy who deserves a lot of press, that's Adam Gilson. Adam, you're with us tonight.
Yep.
I'm here, and I'm telling you what I'm bringing to the Tornado Championships: 6 brand new pairs of socks and a bottle of Aspercream, and that's it.
Ooh,
that's it.
Wow,
that's it.
That's what I call preparation, right?
I like to travel light.
You need?
Nothing.
Yeah, the Aspercream does come in handy for sure about that 3rd or 4th day in.
What about the extra large bottle of Rolaids? I mean, that always comes in handy.
I just buy them there. I don't like to do carry on. Yeah.
and they're pretty strict with that stuff these days anyway. I don't know if they are or not, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I know Adam's looking forward to it. Adam and I are going to be sitting down in that booth, and Keith, of course, as well, and a few others. Liz Moore, who did just such an outstanding job with us.
Oh, yeah.
Of expert commentary at Bart O. I'm sure she's going to pop her head in. Right. You never know who might show up in that InsideFoos booth, but looking forward to covering at least a couple of tables all weekend long, starting on Wednesday and right on through Labor Day weekend and into the late hours, hopefully not too late hours of Monday. September 6th.
And I am just vibrating with excitement. I mean, I just thinking forward, the next few weeks, how much fun it's going to be, how many the InsideFoos friends and colleagues are going to be there, and just seeing. I can feel the energy from here.
Right.
Yep.
And when they're cleaning up the place Tuesday morning, they'll probably find me under a pile of debris with my microphone still in hand.
Mm-hmm. Just like the last tournament, that's just how Tom rolls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
an empty
tube
more of
the
those
last.
empty tube, and several empty cans of peanut butter IPA.
Oh,
peanut butter shake. Sorry,
my headache's back.
Aspercream, back of the neck works really well.
I love the reaction though. I love your reaction to that peanut butter shake. There was this dead silence for all of a few beats. Like, man, you guys like. Wait. Are you making that up? Peanut.
We thought that.
Peanut butter shake?
I thought you were joking with us.
Oh, you did.
And I'm new to this. Yeah, I'm new to this game, but I thought that was just like okay, which is fine. We all have our own wicked senses of humor.
Radio personalities never joke.
Okay.
Not allowed on this show. Also tonight, I know towards the end of the show, we're going to, of course, talk to Keith Glen, a new InsideFoos commentator, player out of Florida, and also involved with the Foosball Academy down there in the Jacksonville area. We'll talk to him a little bit about that. So we've got that. We've got our usual features.
Yes.
One other thing coming up this Thursday and Friday. It's the Com Kickern world record of foosball. Get as many players playing foosball over a 24-year period all around the world as possible to set a record. Of course, records are made to be broken, and we could hopefully do that next year.
Oh yeah. Now, what are you two doing personally to help set the record?
Very good question. That's a good question. We may rally the troops here locally in Durango and get them out playing. We certainly are encouraging that. And may be involved with the production of that, hopefully handling some streams from around the world in different locations. And we'll have more information on that here this week.
Neat. Adam?
I don't know yet, but in the interest of household civility, I might not be that involved since I am going to the Tornado Championships and the week after that.
So you can't
but I'm playing that close to the vest, and we'll see.
You can't get 3 of your buddies together just to play some pickups and register.
Well, I'm gonna at the very least I'm gonna reach out.
Okay.
And tell them what's going on.
Okay. Well, we here in Albany, by the way, Albany.
Oh,
Albany, New York. We're going to be doing a DYP as we always do on that Friday evening. And so we're going to be part of the world record as well.
Now, isn't there an Albany in Georgia as well?
There is.
Maybe it's pronounced Albany down there. That could
be. It might be. It looks like Albany, but it's Albany. And what can I tell you?
We got a show to do, guys. Let's do a show.
All right.
I'm talking about these great events coming up. Of course, works up a mighty thirst.
What Jim and I like to do right about this time is to reveal our favorite IPA.
I'm very curious as always, Jim. So have you stayed on the West Coast again this week?
Not on the West Coast. I'm in the western part of the United States for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I live in Durango, Colorado, right?
Right.
And when I tell people that, they say, "Oh, you're right there by Denver. You're playing all those local DYPs in Denver, and you know all those people." I said, "No, I'm 7 hours from Denver over a couple of mountain ranges. I'm not even close. The city I'm closest to is none other than Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is 3 hours south of us here in Durango.
Oh.
And I've gone to a really good brewery who's been in business since 2008. It's the Marble Brewery of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm having their Desert Fog.
Desert
Hold on a second. Yeah, 1 second here. There it is. Comes in a can, as you can tell.
You actually opened it.
Have a quick sip. I have a perfect explanation for it, a description of it, and I'm not reading this. She has a hazy glow resembling the beautiful accumulation of early morning fog, kissed by the orange juice-hued southwestern desert sunrise, and smells of pineapple grapefruit juice perfume.
Oh, my.
It's a hazy IPA, 6.8% alcohol by volume, and it's really good.
You have aroused my IPA interest in that one. That was quite the description. So, Adam, what about you? What are you partaking of?
Well, you know what you know about me is that I've just recently been into the IPA game and have fallen in the spectrum of really liking hazies. But what you don't know about me is I love fermenting. All things fermented. I grow my own cucumbers and make pickles. I'll ferment 30 pounds of sauerkraut at a time. I love the interplay of sour with sweet, sour with anything. Reubens are my favorite sandwich in the world. So when I was walking around Whole Foods the other day, I chanced upon this New Belgium Brewery sour IPA.
Oh boy.
And I have never had one of these before, but let's have a sip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's amazing. It's sour, but just enough so. It's an India Pale Ale blended with a wood aged golden sour ale, 7%. And I got to tell you, this is. It's harmony. It's harmonious. If there's any other word I can say, it's harmonious.
Yeah,
I couldn't say anything else besides that.
I have to remember that adjective.
And it's a really, really cool can.
Harmonious.
There's a kite on it. It's nice. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. I mean,
mix of a sour and an IPA. You gotta love it.
Yeah. It just got both. Everything good there.
It sounds to me like you're just a walking vinegar factory, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I am.
Yeah.
That was actually on my resume when I sent it in InsideFoos.
You don't have to see him to know he's coming.
Yeah, right. Do you like sauerkraut by any chance?
Do I?
Yeah.
I love it. I ferment 30 pounds at a time in my hallway.
Really? No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to turn you on to Sauerkraut Seth. He's back here on the East Coast, and he's well known up and down the East Coast. He's also an amazing bass player in a band, but his Sauerkraut Seth, he's he makes the best in the East. No question about it. But I'll give you his address. Yeah.
That was a good ad right there. You just read a nice ad for sauerkraut. What was it? What's his name? Saul?
It's Sauerkraut Seth. Yes.
Seth.
Yep.
Outstanding.
But anyway, so on with the IPA. Now this week, of course, you guys already know that I'm a cat dad. You know, never had kids. We have cats. So when we found this one, I was like, I've got to try it. It's called Fat Orange Polydactyl Cat.
Oh,
yeah.
I love polydactyl cats.
Polydactyls. Yeah, right. Exactly. They're the best kind of cat. It's a double IPA. It's 8% by alcohol.
Oh, here we go.
Oh boy. That's
Get ready, right? And it's done by the Fat Orange Cat Brew Company out of North Haven, Connecticut. They seem to have a lot of IPAs in North Haven. At any rate, here we go. All right. So one sip and there's definitely a hint of citrus. It does have that orange finish to it. I dig it.
Can you explain further? You're just sort of scratching the surface.
Oh no.
It's citrusy. It's luscious. It has there's this nice orange. You know how when you have a nice glass of orange juice, and there's a little bit of that acidic sort of taste left over. This is it, man. This is it.
Can you drop the can and see if it lands on its feet?
Yeah. Ooh, that was quick, Jim. I'll give you that one. That was quick.
I'm not even trying to compete with Jim with that. Like his dad jokes are on point, and I will not.
My kids love them. My kids.
I will not engage.
No one else does.
We hear you.
we need to send him away to that. What is it? That seminar now that you get through? I think it's Liberty Mutual Insurance. How to not be your parent.
Yeah.
I love it. That's,
All right. Hey, well, it sounds like we all had good ones tonight.
Yeah,
that's
I think
you know,
so.
that's we're 3 for 3, and I think Keith Glen is going to join us a little later, also an IPA drinker. We'll have to
Yes.
ask what he's drinking, if he's drinking something tonight.
Let's tip a glass to the honor group of the week. This week we have to remember our good friends just south of here in New York City. Their organization is called NYC Foosball, and during COVID they lost one of their bigger venues called Fat Cat, where we played right after the showing of Foosballers in Manhattan. We played there with Rob Morris and Tony Sprademan and a few others who were there for the movie premiere, and just had a blast. But unfortunately, that location, I believe, has closed down because of COVID. And there's some other locations that are coming online. But to the guys at NYC Foosball, we tip our hats to you and hope you're surviving the hurricane.
Here's to you guys.
Cheers.
Oh, yes, indeed. Well, I would say that with the process by which we're going through right now, just to get to another competition, everybody's worried about, the resurgence of COVID and this kind of thing. I think as long as we're vaccinated and we're cautious, we should be okay. What do you guys think?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important. I mean, we're potentially going to have 650 players in Lexington and starting in 10 days here, which is remarkable. And I just would advise people to, at the very least, wash hands as often as you can with soap. And because obviously we're all sort of exchanging or sharing foosball handles, although most of the time wrapped, which is a good thing. And just showing general caution as much as possible. And again, 650 players at that venue, hard to stay 6 feet apart from anyone, of course.
Right.
But if we're safe and if we're vaccinated, which I know that we are, and I feel okay about it. I think going into this event, I'm just more excited about foosball than I've been in a while. And when it comes to an event, of course, we've already covered several good ones this year, but there's nothing quite like the Tornado Championships. Whether you're there or whether you watch it, it is the highest level of foosball played anywhere in the world, in my opinion. And I've certainly been around to see a lot of it. After the World Cup, it's probably the next most prestigious event in the world of table soccer internationally. And there's so much international interest in this tournament. Obviously not going to be a lot of international participation, although in the past we've had as many as 100 players from out of the United States attend.
Yeah.
This year probably not going to happen. Maybe a few Canadians and here and there, but it's just be safe, be smart, and really enjoy some great foosball.
Yeah.
Winning a world championship, no matter which event you win it in, is super special. And I know everyone's looking forward to that. Right now, 3/4 of the players headed to Lexington all think they are going to win a world championship. And I love that.
I have to ask for your honest opinion here, both of you. Who is the biggest underdog? Who do you think is going to surprise us all?
Oh.
Go ahead, Adam. You take it first.
Well, so this is a story I've been tracking for a while now. And I think, for me, one of the biggest underdogs is a Pacific Northwest player named Joseph Wyborg. He's one of those, a classic case of a young, talented player that plays basically regionally and just doesn't get out much.
Okay.
So you don't get to see him. But he is, to me, the big underdog. I believe he's ranked amateur expert. And I think the underdog for him in some of the events, particularly in the expert and the pro events, I think he has a shot. And for me, the big thing for him about this is that he just wants to win a table and bring it back to his hometown of Olympia, Washington, so he can start a foosball club. So I don't know. I'm watching him.
Very cool.
I'm watching him.
And I love Joseph. What an outstanding, talented player he is. And he's capable of beating anybody in a given match. He's also capable of losing to anybody in a given match. And that sometimes is the problem with a player like that. And it's just a testament to the fact that he hasn't really been out on tour as much as he would have liked to. And I know he's a very young father as well. But yeah, that's a good one. For me, I don't know that it's an upset necessarily, but I'm going to predict. First of all, I'm not going to predict who's going to win open singles because I think that's going to be Tony Sprademan again.
Right.
But I'm going to predict that Brandon Munoz reaches the final of open singles this year to face Tony. That's my prediction. Obviously, a lot of great players, but this guy is upwardly mobile right now. He is improving every time we see him. He's an extraordinary singles player. And for me, I'm going to go out on a limb and make that. It's not a huge limb, but it is a limb that I think Brandon Munoz, and this one may come back to bite me. Who knows? But,
right.
But well, I'm going to make that goal.
Is Tommy Orr Jr. going to be in the competition?
Yeah, for as far as I know, he will be there. Yes.
Okay, so
And of course, we're not. That's not any sort of upset. If he gets to the
right,
final or wins it, that's
right.
not going to be a huge surprise, based on how good that guy is.
Yeah.
And he, of course, proved it against Tony in Texas earlier this year, and it's taken a couple of months off. And I believe he's ready to roll, returning once again to the site of him winning that doubles world championship 2 years ago with Brandon Moreland, and they're going to try to defend that here this year.
And this would be really significant if he were to win singles against Tony, especially if that were the finals, simply because he's never done that before, correct?
Not a world championship. No, I mean, we're talking what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, 4 years ago when he first won a world championship in the amateur division, and here we are already talking about him as a major contender for the Open title.
Mm-hmm.
So he has never won an Open Tornado World Championship title in singles. No, already has one in doubles. How about that?
Interesting.
What's Tony's streak here? 5, 6, 6.
He's won 5 in a row. Yeah, he's won the last 5, which no one has ever done before. The only player to ever do that in this country. I'm sure Fred has won 5 in a row on other tables. But in as far as the United States, and in many people's opinion, the United States Tour is the Premier League. It's the major leagues. And I don't know that you're going to get a lot of argument about that. And so winning 5 in a row is a remarkable, remarkable feat. I believe he has 8 Tornado World Championship singles titles overall.
Well, guys, let's remember history here. Let's go back to 2010 when a very young player with the last name Moore had his first big victory at a world championship.
With great moments in foosball history, this is a FoosTalk Live Flashback.
On goal, Ryan grabs the rebound. Ryan Moore for the world title on the Tornado table. Stokes it to that straight hole. Ryan Moore has won the 2010 Tornado World Singles title. Great performance. He did it shooting a pull shot. He did it against the best players in the world. But bottom line, Ryan Moore did it.
Listen in next time for another great moment in foosball history. It's FoosTalk Live Flashback.
Well, this begs the question, how old was Ryan at the time that he did that?
I want to say he was 19, maybe 20. And
Wow.
The thing about it, a couple of things that I think about, and the reason I chose that particular clip, this was, of course, his first world championship as a singles player, as any player.
Okay.
Not won doubles either.
Wow.
But for the first time, that was the first time we ever saw him shoot a pull shot. You know, he was a snake shooter coming up in all the big international matches he played as a junior, and then on the Tornado Tour, he was a snake shooter.
Huh.
And to see him shoot the pull shot, we were really surprised that he was continuing to shoot the pull shot. Now he was continuing to score with it, and looking back now, hindsight is 2020. Of course, one of the great pull shots ever. But at that time, it was kind of shocking. The other reason I selected this flashback for tonight is I don't think we want to forget about this guy.
Yeah.
There was a period of time, about 2 or 3 year period, off and on maybe, where I felt he was the best player in the world. This was a guy who was playing at a level that we had really never seen before. Maybe Tony, Fred, Billy, that was about it. But he was remarkable. And we can't go to sleep on this guy. The talent is off the charts, of course, the experience, etc. He will be at the Tornado Championship. He's going to be playing with Blake Robertson, who he won the multi-table world championship with in Spain a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Whether he plays singles remains to be seen. But, I predicted Brandon Munoz would reach the final. If Ryan Moore was in shape, if Ryan Moore was mentally, really invested in foosball, of course, it'd be hard not to pick him to reach that final as well. But anyway, so I just wanted to illuminate the fact that let's not forget about this incredible player and who has gone on since that 2010 win to accomplish just so very much.
And just a quick question in that singles match, who did he actually defeat for that title?
Beat Billy Pappas.
Billy
Pappas had, Pappas was coming off a run of, I think he had won 3 singles championships in 4 years, went on to win the 2011 World Championship the next year after that on Tornado.
Really?
But yeah, it was a Ryan Moore versus Billy Pappas final. And again, Mark likes to talk about it. That was that era, starting about 07 or so, where you had Billy Pappas, Frederick Collignon, Tony Sprederman, Ryan Moore, all playing at the same time and competing for championships. I mean, these are maybe the 4 best players of all time, maybe, and certainly 4 of the top 7 or 8, if at worst. And so we would see these matchups. It would be Tony versus Fred. It would be Ryan versus Billy, and just these incredible high-end singles matchups that were just so entertaining.
Right. No, and we'll get back to that very, very soon, because I can see even some of the people we've already mentioned tonight, there's going to be some serious contention now. Tony Sperderman may not be able to assume that he's going to take a sixth consecutive championship here in singles.
No, he's the favorite going in for sure. But
right.
But there are other guys that could potentially win it for sure.
That's exciting. That's great. Well, guys, I when it comes to going to a major like this, there's a lot to think about. And I'm wondering, especially when it comes to our top five tonight. I know we talked about the top five best ways to advance yourself as a player when it comes to going to these tournaments. Do you feel like you want to dive into that? Can you tackle that topic?
No, not a chance. Absolutely not.
Time once again for the FoosTalk Live Top 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here's Jim Stevens and Mark Torres.
And the part of Mark Torres is being played by Adam Gilson this evening.
I love the USC marching band. I love it. In this, to give credit, I'm going to give credit entirely for tonight's topic, tonight's top five, to the illustrious Adam Gilson. And basically, it's how can you, as a player, whether you're a rookie trying to move up to amateur, whether you're an expert trying to move up to pro to open, master, whatever, what can you do specifically to improve your position, improve your ranking, your rating? How can you move up that ladder and eventually become a pro player if you want to? So Adam, what else do you have to say about it? This was sort of your idea. This was something you kind of threw out on the table, and we're going with it. So what are your thoughts on it?
Well, my thoughts on it are this. It's what we're really talking about here is we're talking about teaching you, based on our observations, how to teach yourself to be better, and not just yourself, but maybe whatever community that you're in. And I say that, and I stress that, and that'll become more clear when I get to the number 2 and 1 in my top 5. But when I say the community in which you're in, even if it's like a small group of 4, 5, 6 players that you see once a week, every other week, or something like that, there's ways to improve. And one of the things that I've noticed is that there's a stagnation that occurs. And there's some reasons why that occurs when you're playing with the same people and over again. There's obvious answers: go to tournaments, go on tour, but not everybody can do that. So how do you get better locally? And that's the question that I'm seeking to answer here.
I'm intrigued.
All
Let's get underway.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number.
So I alluded to this a moment ago, but all 5 of these are interrelated. You don't have to do any of them. You can pick 1 or 2, but each one is meant to build upon the next one. Number 5, talk, ask. Talk to people. Ask everybody you play. Get feedback, anything. It doesn't matter. The thing that I've noticed in my career in the last 21 years, 25 years, is that everybody has an opinion, and that's great. Not everybody has a great opinion, but everybody has one. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a kernel of truth from somebody that told me something that was so imperative. In fact, it was Phil Schlafler, actually. He once told me, NorCal player, Northern California player, he gave me some advice on how I was standing with my left foot out of nowhere after I asked him. And it was monumentally, it changed how I was shooting my rollover. So ask, talk, do not be afraid to do so.
Love it.
No, that's good stuff. Really, really good stuff. And that is so true. And we do that opportunity both live at events to do that, and of course using the internet as well. My number 5 tonight is training. It's the foundational stuff. Now, of course, we all started doing this. Hopefully we were sent in the right direction initially when we first started playing. We had good coaching, good leadership, good players to emulate. But it's doing the basics. That means if you have a table at home, even if you don't, show up at the local DYP early, or go over to a friend's house, practice your ball handling, do repetitions, 10 pull shots to different holes. We heard Sullivan Root talk about that in the movie and on the World Cup show, about how she would get on a table and have to do 10 in a row, or else she'd have to start over. But it's sort of an equation here. It's sort of ball handling and repetitions, training at home, plus playing in local DYPs or pickup games, plus playing in tournaments, regional, etc., plus working on your inner game. It's all of these foundational things. And the inner game could be anything. It could be, whatever that is, whether it's, and I'm not necessarily talking about the strategic side. I'm talking about you being in a state of mind, being present, being in the moment, maybe reading the inner game of tennis, which is like the Bible for so many of us. If you haven't read it, Timothy Galway, Inner Game of Tennis, obviously it's about tennis, but it's certainly applicable to foosball. But it's this combination of things that you can do. It's not all you can do. There's more, and we're going to get more specific as we move down the list. But those things, if you can do them every day, great. If you can do them 5 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever. But get on the table, practice ball handling and repetitions, play local DYPs and pickup games, all the while thinking that you're playing in a tournament, all the while playing your tournament style, going out and playing against other players in other events in major and regional tournaments, and then also addressing the inner game, being present, being able to execute in clutch situations, etc. So for me, number 5 is the foundational stuff.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number
4, I'm going to say something that might sound obvious, but I'm going to do a little shift after I say it. I'm going to say practice, but I'm not going to say practice what you think. Jim's already covered the fundamentals and just said exactly what should be said there because it's so important. But when I say practice, what I want you to practice to get better is being honest with yourself. Self-awareness is one of the most important aspects of getting better at foosball. Knowing what sucks, what you're doing that sucks, and accepting that, and also knowing what works and capitalizing on it. I've been saying this every time I ever get in the booth. You have to look at your strengths, look at your weaknesses, and play with them. And practicing being honest with yourself, with the good and the bad, is incredibly important because it lets you go back to the number 5 thing about talking and asking and thinking about what it is that you heard for your feedback and hearing it non-critically, and then moving forward for the next 3.
Yeah, that's good. And I think my number 4 sort of addresses that a little bit as well. My number 4, and it's not self-serving, but number 4 is to watch video. And again, we're talking about beginners becoming rookies. We're talking about experts becoming pros becoming masters. And this applies to everyone. Watch the great players. See what they do. See what they do situationally. See how they approach the game. See about the things that they do under specific situations. Learn from them. But also, if you can, watch video of your game. It does look different. How many times have we heard someone say that I watched a video of my match and it didn't look anything like what I was seeing, right? I don't remember that. I didn't realize I did that, those sorts of things. And so it's important to watch video, learn from the best. Why wouldn't you? Oftentimes there's a couple of announcers there doing their best to explain what's happening. Of course, we're not those guys, so we don't get everything right. But certainly there's things to learn from watching the great players play. There's things to learn from watching as many different players as you can play. And just watching as many different styles and different tables and different situations and different sides tournaments. And then, of course, also watching yourself play. So these days, it's so easy. Everyone has a camera. If you're on table 47, you want to record your match, do it. If you're in the pits, and we do it, whether it's with commentary or without, you can go to InsideFoos.com, get your subscription and watch it. But watching video has become such a major part of growing from any level to the next level. And again, even if you're a beginner, watch the big guys play. That is going to help you move level to level, beginner to rookie, rookie to amateur, amateur to expert, expert to pro, and pro all the way up to master. So watching videos, my number 4.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 3.
So my number 3 dovetails with what Jim just said. Watching video, especially the big boy matches, everybody like that, the big girl matches, that's super important. But something that needs to be addressed is the how accessible technology is right now. You've got your cell phone. You could go get a GoPro for like 80, 90, $100. Record yourself at your regional events. Record yourself at the local DYP. InsideFoos can't be everywhere, unfortunately. Maybe one day. But the most important thing right now is to watch yourself, because as Jim says, it's completely different when you see yourself playing. I've taught violin for 20 years now. And one of the things that I always do when I teach privately is have them, every time we start a new piece, record them, talk about it, journal about it, think about what it is that they're actually doing, and learn from it. That's the best way to do it, because as much as what we see in our mind's eye, which can be accurate, maybe oftentimes more inaccurate than not, what we actually have there in the video record is incredibly important, especially when you're talking back. And this goes back to the fundamentals that we're talking about. You have too much weight on one leg, you're jumping up when you're shooting, anything like that. That's where the war is won in the the foxholes like that. So please record yourself if you can and watch it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. Would that be stage fright kind of if you don't? So yeah, to do that. Now, number 3 for me. We talked a lot about the actual physical training, how you can get on a table and do the repetitions, the ball handling exercises, etc. But number 3 for me is focusing, shifting if necessary, on table management. And what is table management? What does that mean? It's kind of wide encompassing, no doubt about it. But it does involve of course, using your timeouts, using 2 timeouts every game. It involves taking your time, varying your times. It takes being aware of the adjustments your opponent makes. You watch Todd Lafredo, you watch Robert Mares, you watch Tony Spratham, and any of the great players. It's like default. I'm guessing they go to a restaurant and they're in this mode of table management where they know exactly what they want to do, when they want it ordered, how they want to order it, etc. They default to this. Lafredo's amazing at this. Everything. He's always looking 2-3 moves ahead because he began focusing on table management back in 1977 when he was surrounded by all these great players, all these great physical players, and you had to have a great management game. You had to use your timeouts. You had to slow it down when necessary, speed it up when necessary. Play a little, have a little gamesmanship, fair gamesmanship when necessary. These sorts of things. It's just a matter of focusing on them, and that muscle will grow. Your table management muscle will continue to grow as you do it, and that means doing it in one-on-one singles games in your home table. It means doing it at your local DYP. It means focusing on these things, using your 2 timeouts. Even if you've had 7 beers and you're down at your local DYP, still use those timeouts. You might piss off your other guys, your opponents, and maybe even your teammate, but do it. Work on that table management muscle and begin focusing on it today, now, this second. Focus on table management is number 3 for me.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 2.
So this might be hard for some of you because it was really hard for me. So if you're talking to people, asking people, as I said, if you're starting to really confront the things about yourself that you don't like as a foosball player, as you play foosball, and if you're taking video and watching it, say, about a month or so of doing that, you're going to start having some other ideas and thoughts percolate up in your mind. And during that time period, and especially going forward, I firmly believe in the concept of keeping a journal, a video journal, a written journal, whatever's easiest for you. And it doesn't have to be like Dear Diary. It can be anything. It can be your impressions. It can be whatever technique that you're noticing, any fundamental that you're noticing. It could be anything in that realm that's related to foosball. It does not matter, because the bigger point of creating a journal is to having a repository of knowledge, of growth for yourself. So there's no judgment, there's no ego involved here. What you're doing is you're looking at yourself as a player through a non-critical lens, or that's the goal anyways, and growing as a player by looking at what it is that you've learned every day, every week, every month. It's very important to do this, because it doesn't always have to be what it is you're doing technically. It can always be the emotional state. It's just super important. And I will say, for my own part, I've found the old journals that I kept from my run from 99 to 2005 or 6. And I'll get into this at a later date, but you can see the change when it goes from just talking about execution to talking about foosball in ways that I'm only now beginning to remember that I used to think about. So please, if you can, keep a journal, video journal, whatever. Very imperative to this process of learning.
Yeah, that's great stuff. That's great stuff. And like you say, it's a repository of knowledge, but also, when you write things down, when you have a thought, when you have, and again, that journal can be anything. It can be your personal thoughts about your game. It can be scouting little things you notice, tells or whatever about others. But when you write things down, it sort of etches it into your brain, doesn't it? It really deepens your understanding of it. Or as they said in Stranger in a Strange Land, you grok it. You fully understand it.
Nice.
When you etch it into your brain, when you write it down. So that's good stuff. And that, again, I love the way you're building here from 5 on up to 1. For me, though, maybe the second most important thing, and of course, for tonight's purposes, it is the second most important thing, is to go into every single game you play, every single match you play with a game plan. All right. Each game you play, you know who you're going to play, maybe just minutes before that match or whatever, but come into it, say, all right, I know this guy's game. I'm going to open up by hitting a straight just to keep him honest. And then I'll pound the splits and the longs if I'm a pull shooter or whatever. Or I'm going to start off on my 5-row going to the wall, some quick walls to set up that lane. Whatever. You have a game plan. You have a structure going into it. Do you always stick to it? No, not necessarily. You also have to be open to their adjustments and to conditions changing, et cetera. But at least you have a starting point. At least you have a schematic for what you want to do, for what your ideal would be. And in some cases, even I know we've talked about this, I think with Mark, even maybe last week, about having a second, it might have been even with you, Adam, having a backup game plan and a third game plan. But have a game plan going into it, a place to start, instead of how often have we gone into matches, into games, and suddenly we're down 2 or 3 to nothing, and we really were just mindless. We weren't even thinking about anything. We just come in, we drop the ball, we play. But that isn't where you want to be. You don't want to dig those holes. Having a game plan will help you get off to better starts. It'll give you direction in that match, which you will continue to evolve throughout, of course. As we like to talk about, you make adjustments, then you make adjustments to adjustments, right? But having a starting point, for me, it changed entirely my career back in the early 80s when I went from an expert player almost overnight to being a pro player on the Dynamo Tour, because I learned from players back then, most of whom kept journals, including me back in those days, but to have a game plan going into it. And it's based on not only how I'm playing, it's also based on who I'm playing. It's based on other conditions as well. But it's imperative, folks. Have a game plan for every single match you enter into and every single individual game you play as well. Number 2 for me, have a game plan.
FoosTalk Live proudly presents the Top 5. Number 1.
So I'm going to recap. Number 5, talk, ask everyone. Number 4 is don't be afraid for self-analysis and looking at yourself and being really honest with yourself. Number 2 is video. Record yourself if you can. Watch InsideFoos video, whatever you can. But specifically watch your matches, particularly in regional play and DYP play, local play. 2 would be journal, video, journal. That's super important for, just little nuggets of self-awareness is what makes us grow as people. And number 1, what that all leads up to is something that I don't think happens a lot in foosball. And I alluded to this some time ago when we first started talking about what we're going to be talking about. We get stuck in these stagnant ponds of player bases with ourselves, small or large, but eventually, and I think it probably stems from just the competitive nature of what foosball is, which is fine. But what I'm talking about is a paradigm shift in how we talk about foosball with each other to grow as players so that we all get better together. And I'm talking about foosball workshops with your local players. Get together, talk about what it is that you're doing, but not just on the level that I said at number 5. I mean, talk about what you're doing and have what, as Jim was saying, a game plan against each other, but discussing it. Yiddish there's a great word in Yiddish. It's kibbutz. Talking about what actually happened after the fact is so important. And that happens a lot. I think people do that, but it's more attached to this machismo or just, whatever bragging. I'm talking about actually stripping back the ego that we feel when we play and being like, why the hell can you keep blocking my brush down? What is happening? How do we get better? And that is the basis of workshopping. It's something new, it's something different, but it's something that I think that if we did would make pockets of players better and better across the country. But it takes work within each group to do it.
Yeah, that's really good. And that ties in to the club system that we're developing here in this country. There are currently 30 clubs signed up. And if you can also go to the USTSO website and sign your club up, your local club. And that kind of does that, doesn't it? That allows for that possibility to occur, certainly, where you all kind of work together, even though you may play against each other. You talk, you discuss, you get other opinions. I love the workshop idea of that. And I guess for me, it ties, again, all of these things sort of tie together. I'm not sure whether my fifth is worse than my first. I'm not sure what score each of these gets on the scale of what's most important. But for me, I think the one thing that I preach more than anything else, and the one thing that occurs to me on a regular basis when I'm watching young players or even players who are knocking at the door of being a master player, is it's vitally important to play against better players. You have to get out on tour. You have to go up against not just your local members of your club or your player base, but you have to get out, play different players. You have to get out and play better players. There are lessons you can only learn under tournament conditions, competing against players who have more experience than you, maybe have a better overall game than you at that juncture of your career. But you got to get out and you got to play against better players. That's where you learn those. It's the only way, again, that you learn certain lessons about how to win foosball games, how to get the most out of yourself, how to perform under pressure, how to hit that 4-4 point, how to play that 4-4 ball. We always like to harken back to Frederic Collignon, whose percentage on 4-4, if it was 4-4, Fred was winning that game 95 out of 100 times because he had an approach. He understood it. But that all came from him wanting to play against better players. Don't get comfortable with your local player base. Don't get comfortable just competing on an equal level. You got to be hungry. If you want to improve, if you want to move up the ladder, if you want to move all the way up to master player potentially, you have to compete against players who are better than you. And for me, that's the one thing on top of all the other 9 things we've talked about, 5 for Adam, 4 for me. All of these things, when it comes down to it, you got to get out there. You got to test yourself. You got to learn from those situations. You have to play against better foosball players.
And I got to say real quick, this has not been 2 top 5 lists. I feel like this is 1 top 10 lists. You pick your order, but this is like, these are the things. Yeah. This is how you get better. There's a lot of different angles to go, but I mean, that was Jim. That was amazing. Your number 1 was great, and it all comes together as far as the concept of self-education. That's great.
Yeah, it does, and I think yours was. I love the way you build on each thing. One thing I learned a lot. I'm going to go practice some of what you just said. No, it really was. And if players, and not to say that Adam and I are the end all be all of foosball teachers, but I've been teaching players around the world to play foosball for 25 years. Adam is a natural born teacher who understands the game, and so take it for what it's worth, folks. But I think both of us feel pretty good about these 10 things that we illuminated here. Certainly couldn't hurt.
I got to say, guys, I've taken more notes tonight on this top 5 than any other top 5 in the history of FoosTalk Live.
70 episodes.
Hands down. 70 episodes.
70. Is that crazy? Yeah. But most of your notes were about Adam's sour IPA. I know that. But anyway.
No, it's
my Rubens.
And I have to say, Jim, to your point that you always have to play against people who are better than you. That's easy for me because 99% of the people I play are better than me.
Not for long, Tom. Not for long.
Yeah.
Well, I have to take it. I have to be realistic about this and be pragmatic and say, okay, I've got a place to start. Which is at the bottom.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Right. Well, we all start somewhere, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We all did. We all started at the bottom, didn't we? Yeah. We all were terrible when we first started. But, these are things I like to talk about. Adam and I, when we're commentating, we'll work these sorts of angles into it. But these are things to focus on, and for young players coming up, they don't always have a coach, don't always have necessarily a leadership or teacher or anyone that can help them along. Hopefully you can take a few grains from what we've talked about here tonight.
We just had our Smashdown here in the capital region a few weeks ago. And we saw the reemergence of some of the better players in the region. Kevin Walker came back out, as you guys know. And of course, Mike Philbrook was here. Yeah. And I was practicing last night with a friend who he and I are going to be playing together at in Kentucky. And anyway, we're trying to examine some of these things that these players were doing. And he made the point, he said, well, let's take Kevin Walker, for instance. The way he's so methodical, the way he does the same thing over and over and over again. He's ritualistic. The way he sets up his ball, sets up the shot. And I'd heard Kevin Walker explain it a few years ago that he when he sets up his pull shot, it's like he's loading the gun. Loads the gun, it's cocked, and he just waits to fire.
I love that.
The most exertion he puts forward in any part of the match is when he fires the gun.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great, and it's a lot of that is mental approach, right? You just have that in your mind. You feel it in your mind that you're coiled up and ready to explode, so to speak. And it's good stuff. Good stuff, Tom.
Yeah, no, it's these kinds of observations. I want more of this to come out of FoosTalk Live, because I think this should be a place where people can come and say, "Hey, you know what I found out last night on the show? Wow, I didn't know. I'm going to go back and try that." But anyway, thank you for that.
No, we can even talk about the top 5 ways to do a wall pass.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just so much nuance. There's so many different ways to do it. But anyways, I digress.
No,
I'm a foosball nerd, so
this is cool, though. This is what this is all about, especially as we prepare for this huge competition. And by the way, beginners and amateurs is probably going to be 200 to 300 players deep in those categories.
Yeah, isn't that something? And,
so exciting.
I know we've got Keith Glen waiting in the wings here, but the one thing about those events and a lot of that is just because these are younger players, players who maybe don't put in a huge amount of practice time. Some of them do, of course, but it isn't always the most talented player. In fact, it usually isn't the most talented player who wins those beginner, rookie, amateurs. It's the player who can go through a field of 200, right, and be consistent. It's the most consistent player or players or team that oftentimes wins those. And so, I think a lot of the things that Adam and I have talked about tonight are working towards consistency, and that's really, I guess, when you bring it down and encapsulate it into one thing, it's about developing consistency, high-end consistency on the table. That's what's going to allow you to move up level by level.
No doubt about it. Well, guys, I think because of the consistency of InsideFoos and the play-by-play, especially the young blood that's been added to the team, things have been coming along nicely. By the way, a lot of opportunities to hear the new team do their thing, not just with the Smashdown, but also in Germany, and then again this weekend in Manchester. Some really great talent coming up, and of course we're very lucky to welcome for the very first time to FoosTalk Live one of the newest additions to the InsideFoos team, doing play-by-play on a regular basis. You'll be hearing his voice quite a lot. Let's welcome Keith Glen, all the way from Florida. Keith, are you with us?
I am, Tom.
Hey, Keith, how are you?
Listen to that voice. Listen to that. Is that a play-by-play voice or what? And you mentioned it, Tom, that we're sort of grooming him, and of course he wants to do it. InsideFoos has never had another play-by-play announcer. It's been me. It's been me working those 8 or 10 hour days at the Tornado Worlds for 5 or 6 days in a row, and but now with what Keith can do, as he continues to grow as a play-by-play announcer, does have some experience doing other things, and I guess we'll talk a little bit about that. But we're looking forward here next week to having Keith. Obviously, we're going to get plenty of Jim Stevens and Adam Gillison and others, but certainly Keith Glen is going to be sitting in and doing his high-quality play-by-play as well. Looking forward to that. So, Keith, great to have you on the team.
So, Keith,
happy to be a part of it.
Keith, I know it's been a couple of weeks since we first met at Texas State's, and I felt like we got a chance to play together a little bit, and which was a lot of fun. And hoping that's not the last time. But Keith, you got to give us an idea, because of course it's a tradition here at FoosTalk Live. Where did this all start for you when it comes to this fanaticism about foosball? How did you begin this game?
Well, I'm glad you phrased it like that, because obviously, like most people, I've known what foosball is my entire life. My best friend as a kid had a table in the basement because his mom liked playing in college. I got into it a little more in college, and I thought I was good at it.
Okay.
Smashing the ball as hard as I could as the second the ball got onto the rod. But the fanaticism and learning that my slice of humble pie was coming, that started about 2 years ago.
Oh.
I was a local Mario Kart 64 champ at a local bar, kind of a cool little retro barcade that we have here.
Mario Kart?
Yes. And so video game competition in the local bar.
I love it.
And they had a foosball table, and a buddy of mine and I would play on it all the time. And finally, the sign-up sheet was posted on about a Foos Academy. And we said, oh, that's interesting. And they were going to be doing a beginners tournament. And we didn't consider ourselves beginners. We woke up on the local barflies and things like that. But we said, hey, it's Thursday night. Let's go check it out. So we did. And that's kind of where it started.
Wow. And so who were you learning from? I mean, that's only 2 years ago. And what part of Florida again?
Yeah, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, the northeast corner, just south of Georgia. We call it the First Coast.
Okay.
St. Augustine here is considered one of the first settlements. So it's the First Coast, and our club, for alliteration's sake, is First Coast Foosball. So my mentor is actually a guy named Tony Cinca, which Adam and I found out yesterday.
Oh, yeah. We have that connection.
Terry
my
from
dad,
the TS days.
Yeah, my dad, Terry Gilson, was working with him. And I guess they got tables over there in the Florida region back in the 70s. Is that true?
Yeah, it was 77, 78, I think he told me.
Huh.
Yeah, he was the TS promoter rep here in the state of Florida. He's actually in the World Table Soccer Almanac that was put together for winning a best dressed thing in the 70s too. So he's been around for a long time. Really nice guy. Loves the sport. Total dork. I'm looking forward to getting to play with him in amateur doubles there at the Tornado Championships. It was him and another guy named Perry Palacio who dedicated their time and energy to try and bring in new players and teach them the organized game of foosball.
Cool. Wow. So now you showed up for the academy, and how'd that go to start with?
It was eye-opening, to say the least. Just the idea of setting up for a shot or passing or ball control or anything like that was completely foreign to me.
Okay.
And because my friend and I got into it together, we kind of dedicated, said, yeah, let's get into this. Let's make this a thing. And 3 months later, we went to our first tour event down at Florida State.
Wow.
Since then, obviously the pandemic happened in the meantime, but I've kind of got on tours every opportunity I can get. So.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, especially how some people can progress as fast as you have in the last 2 years, because you're a pretty good player. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, actually, the pandemic helped. I had gotten my own table right before the world shut down, and I spent a lot of time. And credit to my mentors, they emphasized the importance of 5-bar ball control and passing. So that made it a little easier.
You've obviously been taught to play the right way, and I can attest to the fact that Keith's an outstanding player. I had a chance to watch him at the Beatdown, the Beachtown Beatdown earlier this year, where, was it rookie doubles that you won, amateur doubles?
Yeah, Jimmy Love and I, my really good friend, if you haven't met Jimmy Love, he's the nicest guy in the world. But yeah, he and I took rookie doubles. We went through without dropping a game. So, and that was
you guys were the last man standing in an event that didn't have a lot of people standing. I got to tell you by the end of it.
I still have the hangover. I still have the hangover from watching that.
Just from watching it. Oh, I know you had to be there.
I know.
It's all a little foggy for all of us, but no, Keith displayed an outstanding game, and again, a testament to the people that helped you along through the academy, and learning to play the right way. Right? Isn't that so important initially? Learn to play the game. Don't waste your time. Don't develop bad habits. Let's learn to play the right way, and it's obvious that you have done so.
Yeah, no, the way that they approached it, because obviously the one cool thing when we do start seeing the more organized game and set up shots is the shots. Right? The 3-bar, the big pole shot, the big snake shot. That's kind of the tantalizing thing. The sort of 5-bar passing, maybe a little bit more boring. So they did a good job of easing us into that and kind of really emphasizing the importance. And, I mentioned earlier before we came on air that I thought this would be a cool opportunity to have an episode that newer players could listen to. You guys crushed that top 10.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things you guys, and this is not the first kind of obscure sport that I've learned. So I had that opportunity to say, hey, it's the details. It's the little stuff. It's the minutia that's really going to improve your game. And, obviously the 5-bar is kind of that thing. So to take pride in being able to beat somebody on the 5-bar. I've lost matches and walked away holding my head high because I've lost to an amateur, but I out-5'd him. And find solace in that. And you'll advance quicker. It's a lot easier to practice your shooting if you're going to do it against live opponents on tour. And the only way to do that is to get the ball.
Yeah, it's a great point.
So,
Adam, what you got?
No, Keith, obviously we've never met. We've worked together for quite a few hours over the last couple months. We did the Smashdown. I think that was our first event together. And then we were working through the Frog Life tournament, which was amazing. But anyways, I'm just curious, as a younger player and somebody that also is a little more privy to how technology is changing and what's going on in that realm. Like, what do you see the direction of our understanding of foosball and as it's being digested by the younger generation, for lack of a better term? Like, where are we going? Like, what do you see? Because
that's actually an interesting point, because this has actually come up in conversation, whether it's on social media or, I've heard you guys kind of discuss it about the rankings. And do we need more rankings? Do we need fewer rankings? What should be a beginner? What should be a rookie? Young kids and new player. I'm not a younger player, but by foosball standards, I guess I'm a little younger, but there's so many resources now for these players. So, I think it was a little controversy started after the beatdown. The team that we beat was a little older, a little longer in the tooth. But they're still new. They're actually a lower ranked team. We were ranked rookies. They were ranked beginners. And say, oh, you shouldn't have these more experienced older guys playing in rookie. What was maybe a rookie or a beginner or an amateur 10, 15 years ago is not necessarily the case now. Mm-hmm. Players on their first time on tour, you have YouTube videos and guys doing tutorials online. The Foosball series that those guys are doing is great. The access to InsideFoos' high quality catalog of footage and live matches. Shameless plug, which I loved that got worked into the top 5. But no, those types of things. So you're back in the day, you were limited to being taught by the best players in your local bar. And the Foos world has gotten a lot smaller. So you've seen, you have access, and I've gotten my butt kicked by teenagers and preteens out on tour and beginners brackets. And, it's humiliating at first, but it happens enough that you're just, oh no, these kids are just coming up quick. And, what John O'Brien is doing with the Foosball Clubs USA. And there's been a lot of talk about how do we grow the sport? How do we get new players in? And there's information and resources there for them to advance.
Right. And you know what, Keith, I really speaks to something that we were talking about earlier, was that experience is relative. You can have 20 years of experience. Can you hear me?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I think my end cut out a little bit. Something about 20 years of experience.
Yeah. Experience is relative. So you can have 20 years of experience and get nothing from it. Or you could have a couple of years of experience and get 20 years from it. You know what I mean? Yeah, and great. What you're talking about really speaks to that, because it is really asking you, like, how accepting of reality do you want to be? And that sounds silly, but and that, and it seems like that's kind of what it is you've been looking at.
Yeah, and I loved your point about how, in the past, and certainly going back to the first 20, 30 years of my career, certainly, you were only being able to be taught basically by your local group. You get out on tour a little bit, maybe talk to a big pro or whatever. And as you were talking about, I was thinking about a young player we met down in Austin named Evan McGregor. Mm-hmm. And this young man has played a couple of big tournaments. He'll be at the Tornado Championships. Super young talent, right? Got in there against Tracy McMillan and won a game and almost took it to a 5th game with Tracy McMillan. Fearless, right? And how much experience, we talked about it earlier, play against greater players. How much chance has he had to do that? Not a lot. But he told me, he said, I watch a lot of video. The things out there, whether it's YouTube, whether it's InsideFoos, the other things that have been documented. There's all this stuff out there for these young players to kind of accelerate that experience factor, right? And you mentioned, you said it beautifully, that you can spend 2 years and grow 20 years, or you can spend 20 years and maybe not even grow 2 years. And so those sorts of things are important. And if I get the sense, Keith, that has also kind of worked into your game plan as far as growing as a player. Obviously, you're playing against some pretty good players in Florida, but also you've watched some video. You've also kind of had an idea about how to do this, right, from other sports, et cetera. So, again, I think it's a great point. And has video played a pretty big role in your growth as a player?
Oh, absolutely. Undeniable. And it's funny you bring up Evan McGregor, because I mentioned getting my butt kicked by some of these kids on tour, and he's one of them. Him and his brother Miles double dipped me in a final, and that was a hard pill to swallow. But 2 great young kids, and their dad, Steve, really nice guy, bought me a drink afterwards, which was real nice. But no, Evan coming up quick. I think he took beginner singles at Texas, and then he took rookie singles at nationals, just flying up the rankings. I mean, he's a smart, talented young kid too, so he's got a good head on his shoulders. But him and his brother Miles are going to be making waves.
They are, and in more than foosball. If you've ever seen him play the guitar, the blues guitar, and see Miles play the drum, which we had a chance to do in Austin, it was extraordinary. I mean, who are these 2 guys channeling, right, Adam?
What? No, I don't remember any of that. I was fine. I was up in my room.
He remembers. Adam remembers singing in the key of G. That was probably pretty much it. Yeah,
the key of black.
Yeah. Shifting gears a little bit with you, Keith. I know you have some experience as a play-by-play announcer. I think Ultimate Frisbee, you've done a little Ultimate Frisbee. You have a nice natural rhythm to it. Obviously, you've got the pipes for it. You're a quick learn on things. And I think, obviously, the best way to learn, again, is by getting out there and doing it, right? But talk a little bit about, because play-by-play announcing, and there's never really been another foosball play-by-play announcer. I mean, I don't know anyone else I would point to and say that guy's a play-by-play announcer. I've had 20 different colormen. I've had maybe more than that of analysts who have sat in with me, but none of them did I look at and say necessarily that's a play-by-play announcer. That's a lead commentator. But I see that in you. I do. And I embrace the idea of you coming along and maybe challenging me, although I'll kick your butt, buddy. But no, talk a little bit about, you have to be, it's like being a forward, or really, I guess a better analogy would be a goalie. You see these goalies that they're just, they're just goalies, right? They have this goalie mentality. They embrace the position. They're just goalies. But you also kind of have to be that way as a lead play-by-play announcer, don't you? You have to embrace that idea and run with it. And you seem to have done that. Talk a little bit about your growth and your aspirations as far as being a lead announcer.
Yeah, no, it was Ultimate that I had previous experience with, and I've done some PA announcing and things like that for my alma mater back in the day. But for me, it's more just understanding your role, right? There is a difference between play-by-play and color, and specifically the thing that I just kind of try to remind myself with the play-by-play is specific. With InsideFoos, we have video. It's a visual medium. So you don't necessarily need to say everything that's going on. It's not radio. You don't need to paint a picture for the audience in their head. And keeping your audience in mind is obviously the big thing, right? Who are you talking to? How are you talking to them? What do they need from you? And how are you going to give it to them? And that, from the play-by-play perspective, whether it be encouraging a color commentator, maybe a newer color commentator. I had the chance to jump on with a good friend of mine today for the first time, covering the Frog Life Open, rather. And just kind of, encourage, get your feet wet now. Let's have a conversation about this while we watch the match. And just remembering, if you have those conversations, I know this has come up a little bit with InsideFoos lately, that you do need to come back to the match. It's about the game of foosball. And there's nothing wrong with having these kind of side conversations, but eventually, you do need to bring it back, remind folks what's going on, the score, things like that, and just sort of steer the show in a way that's going to present an entertaining product for the audience.
Yeah, it's a great point. And that is a conversation we have had this year. Adam, obviously, but you and I have had this conversation, Mark Torres as well. This year, in the past, probably 80% of the matches that we have recorded at InsideFoos have been, and maybe it's 70%, who knows, but have been me soloing it, right? So I'm actually doing the play-by-play commentary, a little bit of color, et cetera, and then having a traditional style of expert commentator, whether it's Brad Anderson or whoever. But things have changed. Bringing Mark Torres into the booth and now Adam Gilson, there is a lot to talk about. These are two very bright individuals who bring the human element into it. In other aspects of life beyond just foosball. And we have found ourselves delving into these long conversations, and it's always me who I always have to be self-aware. I have to be aware that I need to bring it back to the match, and finding that balance of storytelling, of conversation mixed with the specific play-by-play. I've had people, actually, there's been a few comments this year about how, Jim, we'd like to see you do a little more of the traditional commentary, even though we are enjoying the different conversations that you've been having with Mark and Adam and whoever. But that is one of the prime things you have to do. It's like being aware constantly as a play-by-play announcer that you need to bring the score into it. You need to bring the situation into it. You need to suddenly go away from whatever exterior conversation is taking place and bring it back to the match. And it's having a feel for that and creating a balance that is a challenge and maybe takes experience. And for you to illuminate that here early on in your career is good. Adam, I know you and I have had that conversation. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there are many and deep. I don't know. It's hard because I just started doing this I think 2 months ago. So and I'd always thought in my head this would be something that I would love to do, just color commentary, just get in and hang out with the great Jim Stevens. And I never really expected I'd be sitting here on a Sunday night doing a FoosTalk Live podcast with y'all, let alone going to the Tornado Championship. So I can't even answer that, Jim, because I'm still digesting everything that's been happening in the last 2.5, 3 months. But, from my perspective, as far as just trying to do anything in there, whatever Mark has done, whatever direction we're going, as far as that's been going on in the last couple of years, the last year or so, I really love the concept of this play-by-play, knowing the updates of what's going on, but also combining that with the conversational aspect of talking about what actually is happening. Because really, honestly, at the very end of the day, if we're talking about product, if we're talking about what it is that we're trying to imbue upon whoever is listening, you kind of want to be sitting there with your best buddy, watching a match, at your local DYP and just kind of like, shooting the breeze and trying to figure out what it is that you might want to take from what you're seeing. And I feel like, and pardon me for getting way deep in the weeds, but I feel like that's kind of like taking what Vince Scully did, the longtime Dodgers announcer, play-by-play announcer, and just kind of integrating that into a sport that we all love.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when you say Vince Scully, you talk about the greatest play-by-play commentator of all time. But a guy also who not only did he bring you up to date on what's happening in the game, but he would also tell you stories in between pitches,
he had a couple stories.
Yeah, and that's I've always sort of wanted to emulate that. And anybody who saw the movie knows how much of an influence Vince Scully was for me. Keith, who were some of your play-by-play influences? Obviously you've got a style, you've got a rhythm. You're going to be, if you aren't already, you're going to be an excellent play-by-play guy. Who are some of the people that you have listened to and kind of admired their styles and maybe emulated to a degree?
Well, that's funny you bring it up. Obviously, Vince Scully, as we talk about the different types of mediums, he did radio and he did television, right?
Yep.
So he had to master both. And that's not as easy as it might sound. And it's funny, Vince Scully got brought up as I was watching my guys today that influenced me because my Mets were playing your Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
And finally got a win. But those are my guys. For me they talked about Vince Scully and what he did and that there is no comparison, right? And for the record, while we're you kind of brought it up earlier, this is for me, like those guys don't try to emulate Scully. I am never going to attempt to emulate Jim Stevens. If I can find my own thing that people appreciate, perfect. But I am not in any way, shape, or form aiming to fill those shoes. But for my guys, it's actually Gary Cohen, and the way his style of conversation that he has with Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling, two of the great all-time Mets. They were on the last World Championship team, a little while ago,
1986,
before I was born. But those guys, and just listening to them talk, and sometimes they have fun. Sometimes it's more serious. Sometimes it's whatever you need, but it feels like you're being brought into the booth, and these are your guys that you're going to hang out and watch a ball game with, even though I'm just sitting in my living room with my dogs. And that kind of product to me is what I would love to bring to Foosers sitting at home who couldn't make it out on tour. Kind of bring them right there in the booth with us, like they're watching from from the bleachers.
I love that sentiment. It's all about bringing the intensity, right? Being there to relay, to support the match, but also bring the intensity of what's happening in person.
Yeah, but it can't be fake. It has to be real, right? You're basically organically transmitting what's happening on that table through the wires to that viewer sitting at home, and doing it organically and naturally, ideally. And that's, I love foosball. Obviously, Keith loves foosball. Adam loves foosball, and it comes through inherently, and I think in our commentary. And again, we're all going to be there here coming up in 10 days. And man, I'm looking forward to it. What a great team. You mentioned Jimmy Love earlier. He's also going to be there as part of the InsideFoos team. So we're going to bring you full coverage of that event starting, a week from Wednesday. How about that?
Yeah, hard to believe.
Here's a quick question to throw out there just for all three of you, because you're all three involved in this. When you're calling a major match, the Sprademans versus Moores, that kind of thing. We all know, that's intense. There's a lot of information you can share with people. But let's take it to another part of the competition. When you've got amateurs or rookies or experts, and you're calling their match, how do you make that interesting for the audience?
For me, I'll go first here, I guess. For me, and I've done it many times, of course. For me, I'm actually talking to the players themselves, generally speaking. These generally aren't matches that are going to be necessarily viewed by a wide number of players, right? It's not going to be, you're not going to get 100, 200, 500 thousands of views on these. So, but I know the players that are playing that match are going to be watching it.
Yes.
And so a lot of times as I'm commentating it and doing my style of play to keep it exciting, build the drama, etc., I'm also educating. I'm also teaching what they should do or can do in this situation. And I definitely absolutely changed the way that I commentate. And that is because, when I'm generally commentating, I am talking to that one guy that you guys have been talking about who's sitting at home with his buddies, having a few beers, watching. That's who I'm talking to. But when I'm doing an amateur match, and usually it's specifically for one or two or three players that are on the table, I am speaking to them. I'm commentating this match with them in mind and what they can learn from it, and while also hopefully making it interesting and occasionally funny. Not every funny line lands, but you still try to work that in a little bit as well to keep it entertaining.
Sure,
but I'm speaking to those individuals is who I'm talking to.
Yeah, 100% agree. And Keith spoke to this a little bit ago, but you got to know your audience and who's listening and who's going to be watching it. Not everybody's going to be watching it, but whenever we watch those kind of matches that aren't like the marquee matches, it's really important to me as an educator to just try to get in as many things that I can say that they can glean from and learn from. And especially because, Keith, you and I, we've been doing a lot of local tournaments, the last couple times we worked together, or the only times we've worked together. And that's a huge thing because a lot of these things, I mean, I can't fathom in any time frame in the last 23 or 4 years that I've been playing foosball that's been an opportunity for a random local, regional, or smaller event to be commentated on. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting. It's not just an interesting mindset to like go forward with, but it's even larger to realize kind of the power you hold as far as a gatekeeper of knowledge and information.
Cool. Keith?
Yeah, no, and that's what Jim's talking about. I have had the experience to enjoy that. I've had the opportunity to have that Jim talking to me directly when I went back and watched a match, telling me when I should have called a timeout. That would have been a good place for it.
Right.
Mark was saying, this might be a good time to come lane. Things like that. And I definitely appreciate that. And that is absolutely part of understanding your audience. And quite frankly, players appreciate that, right? We had a little bit of a hard time with it this weekend with the Frog Life Open because we didn't have as much access to who was on the table. But just these guys hearing somebody at home give a different perspective, saying their name is cool. And you're right, those are kind of the guys you're talking to. And like we said, as you introduce a little bit more of the kind of friendly conversational things that maybe might be about foosball, but not necessarily that match, or even just outside foosball, other life stuff. Those are some of the matches where you get a chance to introduce a little.
Right.
Yeah.
And see the rising stars in some occasions too. Some people that like Ewan, who's tearing it up. So seeing somebody like that play in an amateur finals is fascinating and probably very thrilling.
It really is. You know what's thrilling to me is I'm looking ahead here 10 days, knowing Adam, who's been on board for a couple of months, but is already is so good, and Keith as well. And Keith, you guys are coming in now to the biggest event in the world. And maybe World Cup would be bigger just because of the conditions of it, the way it's set up, et cetera. But when it comes to importance of tournaments around the world, this is right there at the top of the list, or at least 1A at worst. And your guys are getting to come in here and commentate the best players in the world under the most extreme conditions. I'm really looking forward to getting you guys into the trenches next week at the Tornado Championships and really talking some great foosball. And I think, a couple of different things. I think tonight's show has been really educational, not only for the listeners, but for all of us as well. Not only talking about improvement of actual foosball game, but also talking about the inside game of commentary and how we're going to approach this and the things that we're going to look at and talk about next week at this incredible event in Kentucky. So a great show tonight and looking forward to getting you guys in the trenches next week.
And Keith, we got to thank you profusely for being here. But Adam, parting shots?
I don't know if we did it. I don't know if I missed it. Keith, what was your IPA?
That's right.
Well, I cheated a little bit while I was listening to you guys. I was drinking a Mad Manatee from Bold City Brewing right here in Jacksonville. It's actually about 3 blocks down from my house.
Nice. Very cool.
But yeah, just real quick before I go, I have to say this because I'm convinced I'm doing it right. And I'm not sure what's going wrong. Albany.
There you go. You got it. Albany.
It sounded the same to me every time. Anyway, all right. I had to get that off.
So proud of you, man. You did it. Well, Keith, we're psyched, man. We can't wait to see you in Kentucky. We're going to hang out. We'll come back on live on FoosTalk Live. What do you say?
Absolutely. And I appreciate you guys having me.
Awesome.
Yeah, you'll be on live from Kentucky, I'm sure. Hey, by the way, guys, I know we only have a couple of minutes here, but just next to the hotel in Kentucky is a gas station, right? An innocent-looking gas station where you go and you fill up with ethyl or premium or whatever. Ethyl, maybe not so much anymore.
Wow.
But they also have. You walk into this gas station and you walk to the back of it. There is a beer cave.
There's a beer cave. That's
right.
right.
You walk in. There's a refrigerator.
Oh.
You walk in. It's at 42 degrees. You're in there. If you're in there 10 minutes, you're freezing. But they have got they probably have 40 or 50 different IPAs at this gas station next door to the hotel.
There you
so
go.
the four of us,
Intriguing.
IPAville in Lexington here in a couple of weeks.
That's where we'll be broadcasting live Sunday night.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
From the beer cave.
I love
From
it.
the beer cave.
I can do it.
Hey.
I can do it.
Great job, guys. Looking forward to working with all of you guys here in a few weeks.
Likewise. This is
10
gonna be
days.
fantastic. And tuning in once again to FoosTalk Live. We want to return to another fantastic interview. Clay Tumey, who did this at the Bart O, he did several interviews, and we have the third of which with Tommy Adkisson. We're so happy to bring you that on FoosTalk Live. We'll catch you live next week. Now, FoosTalk Live presents a Bart O Bonus Part 2. Here's correspondent Clay Tumey and his special guest, Tommy Adkisson.
And we can jump straight into to talking. I don't do the whole formal. Hello, my name is Clay Tumey, and I'm sitting here with Hall of Famer Tommy Adkisson. Or I guess I just did
I can introduce myself.
Yeah, who are you? What are you doing, man?
I'm Tommy Adkisson. I'm a foosball player. I've been playing foosball for 30, 35 years, somewhere around there. If I think about it, I can tell you, but it's 30 plus. I actually am a little different than most of the pro masters. I actually have a passion and a love for the game. I'm a different style of player than most. I play fast not because I can't slow it down, and I don't know that. I mean, it's not like I don't know that that's some higher percentage foosball.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have any fun that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have the ability to slow it down.
Yes.
You don't have the desire.
Yes, I do not have the desire.
How early in your game did you realize that? How earlier in your career did you know that when the top players tell me to sit on it, I don't like it?
From day one.
Yeah.
I didn't care what other people's opinion was. I was doing something that I liked doing. I'd always been into competitive things, and I had always done the status quo, and this was something that I found that I actually enjoyed, that I can compete at, and you've seen literally as you go, you're a rookie, and you start to get to where you develop, you can pass the ball. Then all of a sudden you learn you can do an off the wall. Every day's a new adventure.
Yeah.
And something gratifying comes from every single time that you play the game at that point in your foosball career. And I had a few people that tried to tell me, hey, this, hey, and I'm like, I would listen to what they said, and I would try to be like a sponge as a knowledge part of the game. But as far as the way that I'm going to do what I do, I wasn't interested.
Yeah. So are you that kind of teacher now? When a new player comes into the game, how do you? So let's say I'm day one of foosball. I want to learn how to play. How do you go about telling me that because it's hard. You might not be able to give somebody else that instruction. You might not be able to say, hey, just play fast, because it might not work for everybody. Right.
I don't suggest to anyone. I don't advise anyone to play foosball fast.
That's yeah. And that's how you play.
Right. I'm not telling anyone it's the best way to play. I'm telling them that that's the way that I enjoy playing.
Yeah. And
honestly, besides me, the only other person I've ever seen that can do it and do it at a high level is Blake.
Yeah.
Blake actually plays better fast.
Right.
I don't necessarily play better fast. I actually play better when I slow it down, because I score a lot higher percentage, which is the exact opposite for Blake.
Right. Well, I can tell you from and this is one of the areas that was unknown until the last couple of years when I started measuring, certain things on the foosball table. Blake has a funny thing about his timing. If he shoots quick, you're not stopping him. If he sits on it for 10 or so seconds, you're not stopping him. It's that middle 5 seconds, and I don't know if it feels this way or not, but it's that middle 5 seconds. And I don't know. I wish I would have asked him that when he was in front of the mic, like maybe another time. But he plays fast just as good as anybody, like you're saying. And then also sometimes when he sits on it for 10 plus seconds, he's going to score.
Yeah.
But that quick, high speed, high paced just feels like you're getting run over, by everything. The ball is always going downhill, from his side. And you don't think really anybody else poses much of a threat when it comes to speed.
With the exception of, the guy who fucking is rolling the world.
Tony.
Yes. It's different because even though sometimes he's playing fast, it's a structured fast. Everything is for a reason.
Right.
That's not always the case with me
Yeah.
or even Blake. But the thing is, when Blake gets going and he gets on that roll, you can forget about it.
Yeah.
You can forget about it. You're not getting any blocks.
So then what is the difference then in a Tony fast? And I know you're saying his is more structured, but like from a mechanical standpoint, because the typical player or the typical foosball fan doesn't, to us, it just looks like speed. So you're playing Tony in singles and you're playing fast, he's playing fast. How would you go about describing what the actual difference is between your style of fast and a structured style of fast that Tony has?
Well, my style of fast comes from my youth. And, I got away with doing things that most people didn't because I was very, very fast between the rods. Um, I see people today that are fast, and I'm like, yeah, they're pretty fast, but I was equally as fast at that time, And at that time, we didn't have people that were as fast as they are today, so the gap was so big,
Mm-hmm.
So, but now as I get older and I play someone like Tony, it's not like I'm running him around the table. I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah.
It's different.
There's
a difference there.
So, hey, how old are you now, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
46.
So how much longer is that style of play going to work?
When that style, I'm not even going to try to tell you that it works. You know what I mean? I'm kind of talented, and you don't really even see that as much anymore because of the lack of practice and that. But as I've gotten older and gotten more experience, that helps me, to make up for some of the gap. But I don't know. But when it doesn't work, I'm probably not interested in playing anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in changing my game to get better results.
So when it becomes so much of a struggle that it's no longer successful for you, it's the game will no longer just be fun at all, probably.
Well, that's the thing. When it becomes not fun for me, I'm not interested anymore.
You have you're a loud guy. I'll just put it that way. You're on the table. There's a lot of volume. You're aggressive. It's fun to watch as a spectator. I've never been on the receiving end of it that way, so I'm assuming it's probably not fun to play against. What is it? What is it that makes that come out when you're at a foosball table? And I've seen some of the videos from the older days before I really got into foosball, and it was even, I won't say worse because I don't think it's bad, but it was louder, more aggressive, and frankly scary sometimes. What makes that happen, and how does that impact you, the opponent, whoever?
I recently shared this with Torres, and I don't think I've ever shared it with anyone before that. So the loudness, the talking, the facial expressions, the way that I find someone to kind of share what's going on through the match with me in the crowd, a lot of that is a way for me to deal with my nerves.
Just anxious in the moment.
Well, it allows me to, even though I'm focused and I don't hear what's going on around me, it allows me not to 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 feel those nerves and maybe make some of those mistakes that happen whenever that happens. I'm not a player that you'll see that will fumble the ball backwards. I'm not a guy that's going to whiff the ball at 4-4.
Right.
I'm not that guy, because of that. I really have found a way to take that out of the game for me.
Have you ever had anybody talk to you nicely or not? Like, dude, chill out, calm down, man. Like, take it down a notch. Have you ever had anybody try to discourage you?
Absolutely. It's usually the opponent.
In the moment or after the match?
In the moment. And I've actually the first open doubles that I won was a smaller, like, I don't remember if it was a state championship or it was just like a $5,000 or whatever, but I remember it was in Jackson, Mississippi. And I'm playing with one of our local pros. I'm an amateur playing forward for a pro.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in Jackson, Mississippi, and we played Cindy Head and Russ King in the finals. And we came from the left side of the bracket and ended up double dipping them.
By the way, for people who've not been playing for very long, left side is the loser side.
Yes.
It doesn't look like that on, I guess on the computers and stuff now.
But after the match, Cindy told me, she said, you're going to be a phenomenal player. You're going to be really great, but your attitude sucks. And I said, I appreciate that. I appreciate your opinion, but all I can say is your attitude sucks too. Yours isn't great. But the thing that I didn't know at the time is her attitude is awesome.
Yeah.
She's a competitor.
Right.
And I was a competitor too.
Yeah.
I am a competitor. But if whenever I'm doing my I won't call it a comic stick or anything like that. It's my basic routine. But if I find something that bothers my opponent, I will exploit it.
Right.
And then the experience over time of playing people, I know some of the people that certain things get to, and I will use that to my advantage.
Right. That's funny. And are they aware of that? I mean, obviously it's happening to them in the moment and all that stuff, but do they try to get around it somehow, or do they try to ignore it? I mean, if you know what bothers me and then you're doing that to me, like, how do I even deal with that?
Well, the thing is, you have to be self-aware enough to understand that, hey, I don't have to, that doesn't have to bother me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And if you channel it the other way,
yeah,
I mean, it really should be a confidence builder.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, you know what I mean? If you're in a match and it's to that point with me, you should be feeding off that.
Yeah.
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 I mean, that means that, yeah, I'm a threat.
Right. It's funny you say that, because I actually, that's my opinion. Is the same.
Absolutely correct.
In recent years, when I've been mainly at like local stuff back home, and I'm in Dallas, so we have some good, really, top level local players who are competing on tour. And so I get a chance to play against those guys. And one of the, Murray is one of the guys that I'm talking about at home. And I remember when I was good enough to hang with him in a local match, and I know it's just local and I'm not saying that it means anything, and he started throwing some of those phrases out there at me. And in the moment I was like, dude, what the hell? Like, that's not, and before I could even finish the thought, I was like, oh, that means something. Like, I'm good enough for him to want to get under my skin. And I'm not on that level. I'm not that good of a player. I'm only good enough to have fun at local tournaments for the most part. But that's usually how my brain works. Like, if you're talking to me, if you're leaving the table to try to win because the table's not working, like, that's a good thing for me.
I mean, it really should be taken as a compliment, right, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, foosball is so mano a mano.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the only thing where you're a foot from your opponent,
Mhm.
you know, and people get wrapped up in that,
Yeah.
you know, and they start to take things personal, you know, and a lot of people kind of will lose the match between their ears,
Yeah.
you know, but honestly, if you understand, really understand mentally what that means, and it sounds like you have a really good grasp on it,
Mm-hmm.
it's like one of the highest forms of a compliment you can have.
Yeah, I agree. Have you ever had a moment after a match where you thought to yourself, I went too far. I shouldn't have said that.
Yes. And it's happened to me several times. It's more earlier in my career, not so much nowadays.
Any particular situation stick out that you feel like talking about, I should say?
Yeah, there was the 97 Worlds was a very, very, very bad. It was my worst time for something like that. Me and Rob had won the year before, and we in our minds, we completely intended to win in 97.
Mm-hmm. Rob Mares.
Yes, yeah. Rob Mares. We're playing quarterfinals of the winner's bracket match. We're playing a team that is very solid, but they're definitely an underdog against us at the time. And it was Ron Scipiora and Evan Stachlik. They got us 2-0 and 3-1. I've had probably, I don't know, 2 technicals, maybe 3 called on me, and not for my actions, like me talking or anything like that, unsportsmanlike. It's all for resets on the 5.
Gotcha.
And
you ran out of warnings, and now we're into technicals.
Yes.
Gotcha.
But the thing was, I honestly felt the whole time that the other guy was being at least as rough as I was, if not rougher.
So you, at the very least, you thought it was fair how rough you were playing.
Well, not only that, I never even had a reset call in my favor.
Gotcha.
All right. So I looked to my partner, who's usually a little more level-headed in the match than I am, and I said, "Rob, man, I feel like we're getting hosed, you know." And he's like, "Totally."
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all I needed to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Was that reinforcement. And the next time I had a reset called on me, right after I had lost the ball on the 5 because of a bad reset. And I looked to the ref, who was Adrian, and I'm like, "Man, what is the deal? You know, what's the deal? How come it's only being called on one side and not the other?"
Yeah.
And
which is typically a big no-no. Adrian Zamora is the ref. You're questioning his call in the moment.
And the thing is, he's actually very fair, ref. Even if what I felt and my partner felt were true, he wasn't doing it intentionally. You know, I mean, maybe he went into
he didn't have it out for you or
no,
anything like that.
But maybe he went into the match saying, "Hey, I'm not going to let him get out of control."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know what his thought process was, but I said, "Hey, man, what is going on? I want to know what's going on. You know, I don't feel good about this." He said, "Well, why don't you be a man about it?"
Oh.
And I said, and I looked to him and I said, "Are you saying I'm not a man?" He said, all I said was, "Why don't you be a man about it?" Well, at that time in my mental state, I'm not hearing the about it. I'm just hearing, "Why don't you be a man?"
It's questioning who you are.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you're thinking that I'm not a man, I'm 100% man, and you can find out if you'd like right now.
Yeah.
You know. And he's like, he's not trying to be confrontational, but at the same time, he keeps saying the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Well, now I've felt like he's challenged my manhood, but at the same time that he's not standing up to what he's saying, So I spit at his feet.
You mean you literally spit?
Yeah.
At his feet.
I did. I didn't. It didn't get on him, but I did spit right at his feet.
The gesture was there.
Yeah. And there was this big long delay. They should have forfeited us the match. They didn't end up forfeiting us. They ended up fining me, and the fine was really small. It wasn't as much as it should have been,
right,
without a doubt. Well, to make a long story short, we ended up coming back and winning the match. And then we went on to be in the finals, and then I won singles in a tournament that I maybe should have been at least forfeited in the one match.
Yeah.
And that's really the one that sticks out to me the most.
How long after that, how much time passed before you haven't said here that you feel bad about it? I'm just gathering from context clues that you're not proud of it and you wished it didn't happen.
I'm not proud of it, and I wish it never happened.
Yeah.
And
how much time passed before you started thinking, man, I screwed up? Because
after we won the match.
Okay.
After we won the match, yeah.
Did you go talk to Adrian about it?
No, it actually took me a long time to have the courage to go to him about it.
Yeah.
And when I did, Adrian's such a great person that, there was no hard feelings whatsoever, which I can't believe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's telling me this, and I truly believe him, because he's really that good of a person, And Adrian, he's like, Tommy, you got to know that, dude, you're like one of the players that I love to watch the most because you're exciting, and that just made me feel worse.
Yeah,
but
yeah, it'd be better if you said, "Hey, man, fuck you."
Right. I could deal with that. That's what I'm used to.
What is it about? And we're leaving foosball a little bit, I guess, going into the philosophical realm. But I'm curious your opinion. What is it about being a guy or about being whatever we are, to where it's easier for me to spit on you than it is for me to say, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, I messed up."
Because for us to say that we're sorry, it has to mean that we admit that we were wrong.
Yeah.
And no one, most smart people are never going to argue if they think they're wrong. So it takes a big man to admit that they're wrong or they've made a mistake.
Spit on anybody since?
No, I have not. Well, not a foosball tournament.
Oh God. That's funny. Is there? We're I don't know how we're doing on time. You tell me.
I'm fine.
Okay, cool.
I'm fine.
As you know, we talk a lot about foosball, and you've obviously been interviewed a lot over the years. Mm-hmm. You've won a lot of matches, probably done a lot of post game stuff. What is there that there's got to be some topics that there's questions that you've never answered, but only because they weren't asked. Right. Is there anything that is worth talking about that you've just never really had an opportunity to talk about it?
I think the mental side of foosball, there's several different layers to that. Just because you play fast or you're undisciplined in one part of your game doesn't mean that you can't be a smart and disciplined player. Because I'm very disciplined on defense, and I'm very smart about defense, or I feel that I am. I pick up things on players, and I exploit them a lot, but to the untrained eye, that's never even seen.
Yeah, I think Jim has said over the years, and we didn't have numbers to back it up, but he's been pretty strong about. You've had one of the greatest defensive 5 bars of all time,
and that's more like what I'm talking about. That kind of it kind of proves my point a little. But the thing is the game is constantly evolving, it's not easy to get on someone's 5-bar now, the better players. I mean, it's not easy. It's hard. Yeah, I got to the advantage of playing when it was easy.
Mm-hmm. What made it easier? I mean, it was the same ball. I mean, I know that the textures were different, all that stuff, but in terms of physical dimensions, the ball's the same size. The men are the same size.
So, the game has evolved, and I came at the end of people actually getting good at foosball, and I got to see some very good offensive matches. I've watched some matches where guys never missed a pass or a shot and lost, and those were Horton Murray, Horton Bacon matches. There's not one or two of those matches. There's several of them. You're not going to see that today. But another thing you're not going to see today is you're not going to see this, the deliberateness, the way that they were deliberate and how, I mean, nothing was overwhelmingly fast. Nowadays you see things that you're like, holy shit. Yeah. That was phenomenal. And the guy was in the hole where you thought he should have been. It's just, it's a different level,
Is that because of the minor changes to the table that they've made, or the
has
balls?
Nothing to do with the table or the ball.
Okay.
It has to do with people are more fearless.
Gotcha.
And I mean a lot of people were fearless in their youth, but you have these guys that are not. I mean, Tony's not a youngster anymore. For him to be able to play at the level that he has for as long as he has, I mean, I know it's a job to him, and that's the way he treats it. But just for him to be able to keep that competitive edge for as long as he has, it's really a testament to how great he is.
Do you remember, because you were already you'd already won titles by the time he came along, right? Like he was a teenager when you were winning open doubles at Worlds or open singles at Worlds, right?
I remember the first time I seen Tony, the very first time, and he'll tell you about this as well. It's something that he talks about regularly, when talking about his roots of foosball.
Yeah.
He was 12 years old, and it was a tournament in Wisconsin. I believe it was the national championships. I actually ended up playing the guy, this story I'm going to tell you. I ended up playing him in the finals. But I'm watching this match, and I'm watching this 12-year-old little pudgy kid with long hair. I'd never seen him before. It's match ball with him and Lafredo in singles. And Todd clearly jars it off his 3 on match ball. Absolutely no question. I mean, it's
intentionally or
yes,
just okay.
Yes. He'll probably say something different, but I know better because he hadn't blocked a shot the whole match. Tony was going to win that match if he doesn't jar it off his 3.
I'm guessing he hadn't jarred anything that whole match either.
No. Yeah. But that's
good time to do that for the first.
Not that he would pick that time.
Yeah.
Not Todd.
They can't see the eye roll that just happened. We don't have any cameras.
But anyways, that's not here nor there.
Yeah.
The thing is, after that match, I went over and I probably played for an hour with the kid, and told him, you're going to be good. You're going to be great. You just got cheated by one of the best in the world. Don't hang your head on that match.
Yeah.
You should have won the match and go away thinking that way. But that time for him was it was something that I guess no pro master had ever done for him, and I didn't do it with any.
You were just being a cool dude.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You weren't walking up with, I am this person,
right.
I'm doing this thing. It was just being a cool dude.
Yeah. you know.
But to him, it meant the world.
Right. And so it's many years later before, you know, he tells me about it. And, you know, I remember it, especially once he said something about it, you know, I actually remember exactly. But I don't know. I'd always done that, you know. I was one of the guys that I didn't mind playing pickup games with people.
Right.
You know, I like doing it. But the thing is, you know, it made me realize how special just taking a moment with someone can be.
Yeah.
You know, man, the end result is like, holy.
Yeah.
You know,
I wonder how much that impacted his way about it, because I've seen him do similar things for other players.
He's the best I've ever seen about that.
Yeah.
You know, he's really good with the kids. It's not easy to, when you're at a tournament and you're there trying to win it, you know, to give up that time that maybe you could have went to your room and relaxed for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why some of the guys won't do it because it can wear on them.
Yeah.
You know, but Tony's honestly probably the best I've ever seen about it.
I've seen it happen, and I don't know. I would like to ask him about this, because to where some people might say that it drains them or takes something, you know, takes energy or whatever. I've watched him just be walking through the room and just stop. Hey man, you mind if I show you something? Like, and just someone who's clearly a beginner, and it almost seems like that it does the opposite of drain him. It does the opposite of take his energy. It does something positive for him too.
Well, yeah, because it makes you feel good on the inside.
Yeah.
You know, us as humans, even if we don't realize it, we don't do anything for someone else. Usually, right. There's some kind of, even if we don't understand it and realize that's what's happening, there's something selfish about what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I was kind of the same way. It made me feel good to do it. You know, I knew that it made them feel good, but at the same time, it made me feel good.
Yeah.
You know,
that's cool. And you probably didn't even notice it in the moment that it was that big of a deal, or did you know immediately like that?
No, I did not know. I mean, honestly, whenever I was so young, when I was in my prime and got good, I didn't even realize at the point that I was the best player in the world. You know what I mean? I felt like I was still trying to prove myself.
That's a trip, dude.
Yeah.
How does that, by the way, is the AC, I turned the AC off. Are we hot in here? Are we good or what? Can we turn it back on?
I'm good. I'm fine.
What is it like to say at any point in time that you're the best in the world at anything?
Well, you better make sure that it's true to begin with, you know. And there was a point in time that I feel that it was definitely true. It may be a small, you know, time in history, but there's definitely a time that I think it was true. But yeah, I mean, to say you're the best in the world at slapjack is to be the best in the world at anything. There's very few people that get to say that.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I don't think I've ever been the best at anything. I mean, unless you count something that I literally made up and like doing stats and shit, you know, stuff like that. Nobody, I have a competition of 0.
Huh? Well, I mean, Jim Stevens, the best fooscaster in the world,
without a doubt.
Yeah,
there's no question.
Yeah,
I was talking to Liz about that earlier, actually, and we were talking. Jim came up, and to me, to say that he's the best is almost discounting how good he is, because it's implying that there are other people in that conversation.
Right.
And to me, there's just not.
No.
And there are other people who could talk. I mean, hell, I could get up there and talk about foosball.
Yeah.
But when it comes to actual play-by-play, the real deal, I don't think anybody's doing what Jim does. So it's not only is he the best, but nobody else is even in the conversation.
I agree. Now the competition is very scarce.
Yeah,
but
people have tried though. I've watched streams. I've seen people
and
try.
There's a guy out there doing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's also, I mean, there's they're doing podcasts from states.
Yeah.
You know, Florida's one of them. Actually, there's 2 sections in Florida. You know, there's the Jacksonville and Tampa, you know.
Yeah. Cool.
Both those guys are somewhat trying to be commentators.
Cool. I love it. I would encourage anyone who's got the itch to go ahead and scratch it.
Absolutely. Any exposure is good exposure.
Yeah.
You know, the more exposure we can get, the better. But
I feel like I should say amen after that. Like, it's just
it's true. Foosball right now, after our COVID break and the things that have changed and the things that are that look like they may be coming, even the fact that we're sitting here right now doing this.
This wouldn't have happened last year.
Right. I mean, it's exciting. It's an exciting time in foosball. And I mean, I think it's all positive. I think we're going to see a resurgence of foosball.
I think so too. It's exciting. It's exciting to see. There's a lot of stuff going on just with the technical side of things, but there's more people involved with trying to do stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the past, I could have done this. You know, I've always had the gear to sit down and talk with people, but there really wasn't a platform to put it on or to let other people hear it. So now we've got like Foosball Radio. We've got the weekly podcast that everything goes on there. We've got Inside Sports International, the whole thing. And that's where this is going. I don't even know if I said that earlier, but this is not for me. This is I just said, hey, I want to do this, and then I'll give it to the guys, and they can do whatever they want to do with it. This wouldn't even have been a thing a few years ago,
right? And that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very exciting time in foosball right now. It's almost like getting in on the ground floor of something again.
Yep.
And you know, I wasn't a part of the 70s, which many call the golden era.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was the golden era, the 90s were the second golden era.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one's coming.
Yeah, I think you're right. What is on the horizon? What are we going to see? I mean, if you had to make your guess, how many? We're going to see new, you know, hot shot young players. We're going to see bigger tournaments. I mean, what kind of stuff?
Well, we're already seeing the new hot shot young players.
Yeah.
Don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
There's a couple women players that are phenomenal, and then there's a couple of players from Costa Rica that are, you know, that's there already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I mean, there's still more to come.
Yeah.
These young kids are getting good quick, but there's one young kid that we knew was going to be good, and he's yet to hit teens. Is he a teen? Yes. Is he a teenager yet?
I don't remember. I think he's 12. He might be rolling up on 13 soon. I don't know. I do know that he dropped the step stool. He's playing on the ground now. That I did hear.
Yeah.
But I don't know the ID check on it yet. I think he's 12.
I almost lost to that kid, and all I could think about is I don't want to lose to him now. Once he doesn't have the step stool.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, man, I can't lose to someone on the step stool. Oh, I've already lost to Doobie before. All right.
That's funny. Well, I won't take too much more of your time. We got a few more minutes. What else is there to talk about? What is there that people, you know, that you want to talk about, or that people might ask you about and then never have the chance to, or whatever? What else is there to know about Tommy Adkisson?
I don't know, you know. I'm sure there's plenty.
Yeah.
I don't know what people would find interesting. Yeah.
I would guess anything that you have to say probably going to be found interesting. I think you're just that kind of guy.
The thing is, I'm always open for people to ask me questions, and with me, nothing's off limits.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sensitive. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
Right.
You know.
So if I'm an up and coming foosball player, I'm a beginner, I'm a rookie, I'm an amateur, whatever, and I'm walking through the foosball room and I see you, it's okay to
I'm
come
100% approachable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that on display, by the way. I've seen you when I went to Oklahoma State in 2016. I saw you give somebody instructions on how to shoot a straight. They were shooting a pull shot.
Right.
And they were doing it wrong. They were squaring it off. and hitting the post a lot.
Right.
And I don't shoot a pull shot. So there was a lot in that and I was still a rookie at the time. So there was a lot in that conversation that I didn't get because A, I was new, and B, I didn't shoot a pull shot. But I know that you went through a very simple mechanical adjustment, and that changed everything about that player's ability to shoot a straight.
Right.
Do you remember that at all, by the way?
Well,
I mean, you probably had that conversation with a bunch of people.
that same conversation with several people, and that's something that was gave to me, that someone gave me that knowledge. And I think it's very good knowledge, you know.
Is it something you can explain over audio only, or would you have to show somebody that?
I could explain it over audio.
Okay.
So basically, there's a couple cheats that you can use for the straight with a pull shot. Anytime you're in your stance, if they're using a post D and you can see green between the white line and their back man, the straight's there. If they're in a standard and where the moon is in front of the goal, where the white line means
the little half circle,
where those two connect, if that two rod is past where those two connect, the straight's there.
Okay.
You know, and that's the basic for a new player to feel confident in shooting the straight, because unfortunately, we can't lean over the table and look at the straight. So how else are you going to know when it's there?
Gotcha.
You know, and then later on, you learn how to time things.
Right.
But that doesn't start when you start playing. You know, if that's too much information for a new player.
Yeah.
You know, to try to take in all at once. That comes later.
Man, I appreciate you sitting down and chatting. We went quite a ways today, dude, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I think people you're loud and scary on the foosball table, and I don't think people realize how nice you are and how genuinely, like, I'm from Texas. You're just a good old boy.
Yeah.
He's a good dude, and I think some people, if they only watch videos, might not know that. You know, and I genuinely think if my son was with me and you were across the room, I'd be fine telling him, hey, go ask that guy how to play. Like, I think that you're that guy.
I appreciate that, Clay. And I really hope that I'm in the phase of my career that's more important to me than anything. You know, I want to pay it forward, you know. And anytime I can help someone like that, I would be honored to, you know.
Tommy Adkisson, I appreciate it, man.
FoosTalk Live wants to thank Clay Tumey for a great chat with Tommy Adkisson. Next week, another Bart O Bonus Part 3 with Sullivan Rowe. FoosTalk Live is a product of InsideFoos. All rights reserved. Brought to you in part by InsideFoos.com. Protectoflex. 518 Prince, Foosballers the Movie, Foosball Clubs USA, and the USTSO. Tune in again next week for another episode of FoosTalk Live. In the meantime,
we'll see you foosing.